Hi, this is Diane Lovetobake on YouTube. And what we're going to make are chocolate sweet rolls, or maybe you'll prefer to call them chocolate cinnamon sweet rolls or buns. They're an easy recipe. You do have to use a dry active yeast to make them. You can make them certainly by a hand method of making your dough, or you can use your bread maker as I have on the dough cycle. And again, for the video and for my own use, I just find this to be so foolproof to make my dough in here, especially this particular sweet dough. Now, I have one to show you. Now, this is half. You're going to get double the size. So I broke it into half. I'm going to put a little flour on the top of my countertop here. You don't want too much flour because you don't want the sweet rolls to be dense or heavy. And again, this is half of it. Now, generally, I can actually get, oh my gosh, depending on the size, I can get 14 rolls out of this recipe, sometimes even 16. It really is a nice recipe that you can get quite a bit of rolls out of it. So I'm just going to roll it out to a rectangle, and you want your rectangle to be about 8 by 12. Okay. Now it doesn't have to be, you know, exact, but just around that idea of the 8 by 12. Okay. And form a rectangle. Alright, what you'll want to do is melt about 2 tablespoons of butter. If you don't have butter, don't like butter, use margarine. I put it actually in a little glass measuring cup like this, and I put it in my microwave. Okay. Now, oh, I almost forgot. I want to give you the recipe. I'm not going to have it listed below. I kind of stopped doing that because so many people have been copying my videos, taking them to other sites other than YouTube, and it's just so much work involved. So I'm going to give you the recipe. I'll read it slowly. To make this dough, you're going to need 4 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, a half a cup of granulated sugar, 2 packages of active dry yeast, okay? And each package is usually 2 teaspoons and 1/4, but you need 2 packages of it. 1 teaspoon of salt, 3/4 cup of milk, 4 tablespoons of butter or margarine, 2 beaten eggs, 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Now what I like to do is I put my milk and my butter in a large coffee mug, and I put it in my microwave and heat it to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Then I actually let it just sit for a little bit and follow your directions. All makers are different of how you're supposed to put your ingredients in, that type of thing. So do check, you know, your manual for that. But that's how I prepare the milk and the butter together. I did mention that you want to have beaten eggs, but that's the recipe to, like I said, to make the sweet dough. All right. So let's go back to talking about how I took for the whole recipe. You're going to melt about 4 tablespoons. I have 2 right here that I'm putting on right now. Okay. Now that's extra from what I gave you on the directions just a few seconds ago. And just paint that melted butter on the top. Stay about a 1/2 inch away from the edges if possible. Okay. Now, of course, you're going to need a filling. So this is how you're going to make these chocolate sweet rolls. You're going to take 5 tablespoons of baking cocoa. That is the unsweetened. and 10 tablespoons of granulated sugar. And I put it in my bowl and I just kept stirring it, okay? Now, what I have is half of the amount. Well, there's a total of 15 tablespoons. So if you make 2 of them, as I do, it's about 7.5 tablespoons each, okay? And again, just sprinkle this on. Stay at least a ½ inch or 1 inch away, depending what you want to do. And just start sprinkling this on top of your sweet dough that you put your melted butter on. Now it's gonna look like you're putting on a lot, but you really want these to be, you know, really have that chocolate inside of them. And what I do, if there's any, I always reserve about 2 to 3 tablespoons, even a little more, and I like to put them after they're cut. I like to dust them or, you know, sprinkle on top of that. Okay, start on your long edge. I'm just going to make a jelly roll. You don't want them too tight when you roll them up, but you want them even as you go along, that the roll is even. And just roll it up like that. Now when it comes to the seam, I just turn it around and then I just start pinching it together with my fingers to form a seal. So it all comes together just by pinching it. And then I roll it over, start to shape the roll, square off the ends. Everyone has their own way of doing this, but I actually press down the center, bring one flap over to the right, the other flap over to the left, and then I squeeze it in the center, almost like when you're wrapping a package or a present. Folding side to side, right to left, and then a fold over, and then one more fold, and square it off. Now, to cut it, use a very sharp knife, a piece of clean string, or you can use a piece of brand new dental floss if you prefer. And I like to cut mine about this large. So they're probably, these look like to me, without measuring, about 2 inches tall. It depends how, you know, how many you want to get out of this recipe, that type of thing. You want to heavily grease your pan, and you don't want to put them too close together, because you know you'll want to cover them with a clean towel and wait till the rolls double in size. Now, if that might take you, you know, 45 minutes, it might take you an hour. Today, my kitchen, it's about 94 degrees in here, and mine doubled in about, I would say, 35-40 minutes, because it's so warm right now for me today in my kitchen. So remember, you want these to double. So put a clean towel over them once that you cut them, and let them rise till they're double. Now once they're double, then bake them at 350 degrees, and they could take you anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes, but check early, because all our ovens set up so differently. So you don't want, you know, you don't want to burn them. Now, if you are afraid of burning them and you've checked on them and you're concerned, take a piece of foil and just put a piece of foil over them when they're baking in the oven, so that the tops won't get too dark or too dry or too burned, okay, if you think that's necessary. Now, I'm going to rinse my hands real quickly here, because I'm handling dough with raw eggs. Now, you'll want to probably put a glaze over them, so I just use a powdered sugar glaze with milk to the consistency that I want. And that's usually anywhere from, you know, a ½ a cup to 3/4 of a cup of powdered sugar, and then add your milk or your water to the thickness that you want. and then drizzle over the tops of them. This is how they come out, which are really beautiful rolls. Now, these are still warm, and I purposely wanted to leave them warm because I could show you what they look like when, you know, they've been, you know, out of the oven. So I hope that, let me grab something here. Because I really want you to see how light and how delicate these rolls are. Now, it actually is warm, so that chocolate, I'm feeling that chocolate right now on my hand. So let's just put that on a plate here. So you can really see that the chocolate, it's still warm. It hasn't set yet on that. Okay, but this, let me just take a little piece, how delicate and how light the texture of these rolls are. And I don't know if you can see it when I squeeze it, but how very light they are and how delicate. They will melt in your mouth. They are just absolutely delicious with that chocolate filling. Now, if you want to even go a step further, you can melt a little bit of chocolate morsels that you use for chocolate chip cookies with a little bit of solid shortening or whatever you prefer to put in it, and melt it in a bowl in a microwave, and then drizzle chocolate over the top too, or over the glaze as I have it. But they make just delicious chocolate sweet rolls. And like I said, I generally, you know, I can get more than 12 out of these, and pretty good size, as you can see, unless you want to make them bigger, or perhaps you want to make them a little smaller. You know, arrange your baking times accordingly, okay? But it's an easy recipe, quick to make, and it's a delicious one. If you try this recipe and you like it, well, please leave a comment, because I like to hear from you. I'd like you to also remember to watch me on YouTube, because when you do write to me, if you don't watch me on YouTube, people will write and comment and have questions, and they're on another site, and I can't answer you, and that is so frustrating for me. I have over 12,000 subscribers, and I want to thank every one of you. If you're a new subscriber, thank you so much. But I want to be able to answer your questions or read your comments, so please watch my videos solely on YouTube. That way we can communicate if you feel that you want to. Also, if you'd like to give me a like, boy, I'd really appreciate it. And if you're so inclined, if you'd like to subscribe to Diane Lovetobake on YouTube, that would be fantastic. Well, as always, I want to thank you for watching Diane Lovetobake on YouTube, and I'll see you soon.